Hello everybody. Keeping in tandem with the last video, I decided to push into the subject of different game modes for this one. After just being forced to deal with the abomination that is relay defense once again, Alright, I'm gonna take this moment just for, real quick. I hate relay defense. I hate relay defense. I don't know who in intelligent systems thought relay defense was a good idea, but they better come up with a pretty decent game mode later to fix that mistake. Relay defense is absolutely atrocious for a game mode. I like the idea of defending, but switching out my units every 2 turns, just no. No, you're not helping anybody, no, it just doesn't work. Okay, rant done, moving on. At the time of me making this video, I've only got 2 game modes in mind, but rest assured I've got a number more of them in my head that I'm trying to think through and make plausible. We'll be discussing the first one in this video, and then we'll be talking about the second one in the next. I don't like this idea as much as I like the second one, but I still do think this is a pretty good idea, and quite frankly, it fits very well into Fire Emblem Heroes. So, without further ado, the first game mode I'll be suggesting would be placed within Story Mode. Since the world of Asker has vast knowledge on other realms, and we're able to pull multiple iterations of the same hero, it's highly likely that aside from realm jumping, we're able to pull off a little bit of time travel. In accordance with this, it would make a lot of sense for Fire Emblem Heroes to include historical battles as a type of game mode. I think it would be interesting as well as a good nod towards the fans to be able to go back and play maps that they used to play from their favorite games. Throw in a little bit of dialogue from the Asker trio and a pre-made team of units, and you could have a pretty balanced yet interesting game mode. So, let's just say Intelligent System throws this in the game. We're going to get right into it. How are we going to make this work? Initially speaking, we have 2 obvious problems right off the bat with this. Those problems are 1, map size, and 2, unit availability. The map sizes from the games are generally far larger than even the biggest maps we see in Heroes. This poses a problem because we can't create a bigger map. We can only shrink things. The map will need appropriately scaled down to the correct values while still keeping the overall objectives, because it's Fire Emblem Heroes. It's a pocket-sized edition of Fire Emblem. This is going to take a lot of time and probably a pretty decent amount of thought. But it's already been shown that this can be done, as we've seen reincarnations of maps before. The issue is, we still need these maps to be a bit more accurately depictive, so they do need to be a pretty large scale for Heroes, especially if they're going to be featured in a different game mode. This would require a lot of balancing, and generally just a lot of time to figure out, but it's definitely doable, and if it would be a new game mode, it frankly should have this much thought put into it. Next, the unit availability actually has a dual meaning. It's talking about the fact that all the units for the map would have to be in the game already, as well as that we need to figure out how many units we're getting to use for that game mode. The reason I say they need to be in the game already is because I've actually thought up an alternative that would be a little more interesting than us just using our regular units. This is purely opinion-based, so you're free to tell me I'm wrong, but instead of using the units that we've trained up, because it's a historical map, we could possibly have access to units that were pre-built specifically for the chapter that showed up for that chapter in the game. Out of the units that would appear for that chapter, we'd be able to select a certain amount of them to take in. So for example purposes, let's say the max amount we're allowed to take is 16. And like rival domains and Grand Conquests, the number that we would get on the map starting out would be 8. As those first 8 units are defeated, they would be replaced by the other units we selected until we ran out. This plays to Intelligent System's favor, as they could release banners for the new units that would appear on these maps, as well as even maybe give out the villain or a unit for free upon completion of the different difficulties. This isn't exactly necessary, I just personally really like it when I get a free unit, but, they don't have to do this. I mean, we could take orbs since it's technically in story mode. I'm up for anything, it really doesn't matter to me. It would just really depend on what they decided to do. Again, if we were to play it this way and we were to have pre-built units, we're going to have to wait a decent amount of time for them to be able to develop all the units for a specific map, depending on what game they're planning to release it from. The reason for this being, I'm about to show you how disbalanced the spread of characters kind of is in Heroes at the moment. What you're looking at right now is a 99% accurate character count. The numbers in regular text are individually counted, while the numbers in bold include all variations such as Brave Heroes, Legendary Heroes, or Seasonals. This list was not counted once, it was not counted twice, but it was counted 3 times. So it was triple checked for errors and should be mostly accurate, which is why I say 99%. I'm human, I make mistakes. I would like to note a few things about this list before you go and check it yourself to know how I counted it though. Certain characters that appear in multiple games were accounted for multiple games, such as Camus being in Shadows of Valentia and Mystery of the Emblem, the White Wings being the same situation, Owen, Severa, and Inigo being in Fates and Awakening, and most of the characters in Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn are shared. Anna is only counted in Heroes though. I did not count her in any of the other games, even if she makes an appearance. This list means that Fates, Awakening, and Mystery of the Emblem characters have the highest chance of getting historical maps until others are introduced if this were to be a game mode with pre-selected units. Also, if you were feeling your game was a little underrepresented, you might have a right to feel that way looking at this list. I personally am getting a little annoyed with all the Fates and Awakening units being shoved down my throat, but that's a personal rant for another time. We're not going to get into that right now. Moving on to the gameplay, if we stuck with the option to use pre-built units, this would function fundamentally a lot more like the games. We could even throw in an option where you would lose if whatever Lord unit you were using were to be defeated, but not if your other units lost. This way, it's alright if you take losses, but you can't position your main unit in a place that's going to get them killed. These units would scale with the difficulty, and of course, have their abilities change to match what they're going into. This again would take balancing on Intelligent Systems' part, but with the money they could potentially be making on the banner summons, I hardly see how the time spent is much of a downside. Even then, they should probably balance it a little, but it is your job to make it work. And let's face it, 16 plus 10 armors would probably make this mode a joke, so taking that away from you would actually make you think a lot more on the strategic side, especially in higher difficulties. In addition to that, we do have to keep the theme with heroes. This means if it was, say, Alincia's Gambit, no ballistas, and we need a ledge tile that would basically be the same thing as a bush. Cavalry can't pass it, infantry and armor get 1 movement over it, and flyers can move over it normally. Plus, it'd be the first time we could potentially receive reinforcements for our side if they were going to go that far for a faithful recreation. However, that can just be dropped in favor of simply having a unit or 2 spawn there because that's a lot of work already. We don't need to overthink this. Overall, I think this would just be a good and worthy addition to Fire Emblem Heroes, and it would really fit into the lore as it helps bring together multiple realms. I'm going to apologize for the quick video, but I don't want to drop too much all at once. Last video was a lot of information. It was like 16 or 17 minutes long, and I just kind of figured a short one was a good balance. So that's pretty much it, guys. As always, if you've got any questions, comments, or ideas of your own, drop them below and maybe I'll pick up on them myself in a later video. I'll give credit, of course. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, I'll see you around.